This may be the best budget guitar that I've ever played. This is a Dhatarattha custom guitar Strat style guitar in surf green with paisley in this very cool relic finish. Now, this guitar retails for about 560-ish US dollars. Prices are still being determined in different markets, and the word budget is relative. You know, what is budget to you may be different than what's budget to me or anyone else. But guitars around that $500 mark are not going to have the same expectation with guitars priced upwards of $1,000, $1,200, $1,300 or more. But I wanted to talk about this guitar because I find it very interesting. I picked this up at a trade show. This is not a sponsored video. They did let me have this guitar. It is a budget guitar. I can't feed my kids, but I do want to be transparent about that. Now, Fender, in my opinion, can't make a guitar at this level at this price. They just can't. Not that they're not capable, but Fender has all sorts of different product lines. Of course, they also make guitars in different countries. US-made Fenders are some of the most coveted guitars in the guitar industry. Now, they also make guitars in Mexico. A little less money, still some good quality instruments. And then down the line into their Chinese-made guitars, whether we're talking the sub-brand Squire or anything under the Fender name. Fender has to be careful about blurring the lines in between all of those different product lines because they don't want to compete with themselves. But a company like this, Dhatarattha Custom Guitar, with a factory in China, this is a self-owned factory. They control their own production. They can do whatever they want with their guitars without restrictions. And of course, the cost-saving benefits for companies manufacturing in China, it is what it is. They can do things with their guitars that some other brands just can't do without cannibalizing their own product lines. So I want to talk about this because there's some pretty amazing features on a guitar that's not very expensive. Perhaps we can come to some sort of consensus. We'll see. But if you don't know me, I am Dan, the self-proclaimed lonely rocker, still contemplating that question. Is this the best budget guitar that I've ever played? Well, perhaps we can discover that together. Let's get into this. Oh man, that sounded awesome, and I truly was inspired. Always the sign of a good instrument. Guitar players, you know what I'm talking about. You pick up a guitar and just things come out of you. You know, if I pick up a guitar and it doesn't inspire me, there's a good chance I didn't make a video about it. Now I want to throw this to you, short of playing this guitar, of course. What's the best budget guitar that you've ever played? Would love to hear about it. Let me know in the comments. Anyways, I just want to talk about the signal chain and the setup. I do want to mention Stringjoy strings. I always put Stringjoy strings on my guitars. I did set this up prior to this video. It was at a trade show and probably got beat up a little bit, so clean it up. A set of Stringjoy 10 to 46 is pretty standard issue for me on guitars like this. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check out Stringjoy because they make some pretty amazing strings. Now, I'm running this guitar into this bad boy. Now, this showed up just as I was making this video. I was actually planning on using the other Wong's VT15. That's a JCM 800 type circuit. This is actually a Dumble clone. This is their overdrive special, the ODS 20. Literally came in while I was shooting this video, or that performance bit. So this is handling the duties. I'm actually going to do a whole video about this, so I don't want to dive in too much. So we'll consider this a sneak preview. And it's all guitar straight into the amp with one exception. I've got these Origin effects, hot rod. That's pushing the solo, and that's it. A little mix in the DAW, and Bob's your uncle. By the way, I should add that this amp is running into my Angle 4x12 double XL, and that's mic'd up with two Sennheiser microphones. We've got the E906 and the MD421 Compact. All right, let's get into the evidence, shall we? We'll look at the specs of this guitar. Now, I'll intercut some tones from this guitar. You've heard it in a mix, but I want to give you a little more pure example of how this guitar sounds. So I'm going to run this into my Fractal FM9, but nothing fancy, so I can let you hear different pickup configurations so you can really get the sound of this guitar. But starting on this side, we've got a solid mahogany construction, and we got to talk about the finish, because I saw this guitar in a lineup and I chose this one because I thought it looked really cool. Now, this is a nitro finish. Now, you can see here on the back where you've got this sort of relicing here, but this big exposed wood chunk here, it's still got a bit of a gloss to it. So it's all finished, and I'm not really sure the process they use for this, but this combination of the surf green and this red paisley is really, really cool. And when you just kind of look at it, it's pretty genuine, but then begs the question, was this supposed to be a paisley guitar that got painted green and then got played a lot? Not really sure, but it is very creative, and I really like that. And it's comfortable too. You've got a nice belly cut here, good contours here as well. So you have good access to the higher frets here. And overall construction feels solid and really comfortable to play standing up or sitting down. Now, a big compromise I often see on budget guitars is with hardware, and I really like what I'm seeing here. This bridge is great. You know, it's non-branded. I don't know if they're making their own, obviously being a whammy bar, but it has sort of what I call the hip shot style independent saddles here for tuning and intonation. And I did set this guitar up myself, and they were great. Also, so far the set screws are the right height. I find with bridges like this sometimes, again, on more expensive guitars, that the set screws are too long. If you want to get the action down, they start to poke up a little bit, and I haven't had that issue here. So I love the knobs on here. This pearloid or pearl finish on the top of the knobs just looks really, really cool. And the knobs themselves are really good quality. You can just tell on some budget guitars. I mean, these are places where they can easily save money, but it's the first thing you notice when they're not good. But these are very high quality. They just feel really good. And the push-pull, the click, it feels like these are quality knobs. And even the toggle switch, that's always something that feels cheap on budget guitars. And I have to say, I am very impressed with the quality of these. Now, I haven't had this guitar long enough to tell you that they're going to last a long time, but they feel like they just might if you take care of them. Now, these are handmade pickups made by Dhatarattha themselves, called Lauhau. Excuse my pronunciation, but these are an Alnico 5. So you've got two of those here, and they sound really good. And the fact that you got individual push-pull for each one gives you a lot of different combinations. You can have the standard HH configuration, but pull the second one here, you end up with a single coil here, pop it in the middle, and you have that nice combination of a humbucker and a single coil. Of course, in the neck position, and you can pull that, you get that very bluesy, blues rocky kind of sound with the single coil here in the neck position. Or if you want the full humbucker, you can do that as well. So nice to have push-pull individually with each of the pickups just to get a whole myriad of tones. Now let's take a look at the neck. I love roasted maple necks, and we have a quarter sawn roasted maple neck here. Now, it's not the darkest roasted maple that I've ever seen, but definitely seems like it is roasted maple. Has a nice feel to it. It's a C-shaped neck. This is kind of in the pocket for me personally. Obviously, that's a very personal thing. It gets a little too chunky, I start to have a problem, but this has enough meat on it, but it's very comfortable. I would say on the smaller C side. actually, now that I'm feeling it, but really nice, comfortable neck. Now they're calling this a satin finish. It almost feels like a light gloss to me. Now, at the back of the headstock and here on the heel here, can kind of feel it's a little bit more almost natural wood feeling. And then you get that kind of more light glossy than satin. Regardless, it's very, very comfortable. Now we have 22 frets here. This is a 25.5-inch scale. Now the measurements in here on my notes here are on millimeters, but that 350 millimeter radius translates into just under a 14-inch radius. It's got a slight curve to it, almost flat, with stainless steel frets. They're calling them jumbo stainless steel. I don't know if they're medium or jumbo, maybe somewhere in between, but very, very nice. One thing, even on guitars that I got that were double the price of this guitar, within 3 months I had a little fret sprout, had to do some work on it. I've had this guitar since the beginning of the summer. I'm shooting this in September and nothing has moved. It's beautiful ends. You got those ball ends and the stainless steel frets. Really love that. And no fret sprout whatsoever all the way up and down the neck. That's really, really nice. We've got these, what they're calling shell pearl inlays, kind of the hollowed out circles, which is a nice, very kind of modern touch on what is kind of a vintagey looking instrument. I like that touch. And you've got the glow in the dark side markers as well. There's no binding on this, but overall has a really, really nice feeling. And I should mention, this is a bone nut. Now it's kind of a small, thin nut, but I've looked at a couple of my other guitars, get all kinds of different nuts out there, but I had another guitar which is cost in the thousands of dollars and it actually had a thin nut like this. But being bone, I guess it's a lot tougher. It doesn't need to be that thick, but I just did want to note that. And the truss rod adjustment is actually in the headstock. I kind of like guitars that are doing it on this side, but again, being more of a vintage style instrument, they've opted for having the truss rod adjustment in the headstock. And I should also mention that the neck is a bolt-on. Now moving up to the headstock here, the fun continues. I love matching headstocks. It's just something, doesn't work in every case, but in this particular guitar with this very unique finish, I love how they've continued that aesthetic all the way to the headstock with the surf green and a little bit of that paisley showing up here. Very, very cool. And the Dhatarattha custom guitar that's looks like it's painted on here on the headstock. Love matching headstocks. Now the tuners, I got to talk about the tuners. Again, there's a logo on here, so I'm not really sure who makes these, but these are locking tuners. These are really, really good tuners. There's good tension on these. I find that's one thing on budget guitars I notice is that the tension is not really there. Even if they're okay, you kind of got to detune and then tune up again just to regain that tension, and then you're okay to tune. But I'm finding in either direction, there's good solid tension all the way through. Just the fact that they're locking tuners is a big bonus on a guitar at this price point. A couple other notable things. It actually came with strap locks. The guitar weighs 7.5 pounds. Again, according to the documentation they sent me, I haven't actually weighed it myself, but that feels about right. And they did come shipped with Ernie Ball slinkies. Now, I did mention earlier that I do use string joy strings. I should note that it's not like they come with cheap factory strings, because that is something that I see on every budget guitar, all those dirty, grimy factory strings. With the fact that they ship with Ernie Ball slinkies, I think, you know what, it's a nice touch. Now, to me, that's a lot of really upgraded features and what is still a budget guitar. We're talking just over $500 US for this guitar, and there's a lot of really, really great features. Anything catch your eye? Let me know in the comments. So with all that said and done, I guess without getting your hands on this guitar, it might be hard for you to assess if this is the best budget guitar that you've ever tried, if you haven't actually tried it. But I've put this guitar through its paces, and I've reviewed a lot of different guitars on this channel at different price points. I'm not afraid to try budget guitars, and my expectation is always aligned with the price point, because I think that's important. We can't expect a $200-300 guitar to play as well as a $1,000 guitar. Now, this guitar priced at around $570 US, that translates to about 780 Canadian. Yes, I am Canadian. I've played guitars around the $1,000 price point that would have a hard time stacking up against this guitar. I've had issues with tuners, I've had issues with the bridge, and there's just so much to like about this guitar. The attention to detail, like the knobs, for example. I just love the details here. This finish is crazy. Now, I've found myself wondering if they have a process that they can replicate this finish. Now, I've seen a picture on their website that had the exact same markings as this one. Now, is it this exact guitar, or do they have a process where they can sort of stamp this finish somehow? I don't know, but it's a really cool looking finish. I really enjoy that, and this choice of colors, it's fun to look at. It's a very, very comfortable neck. I love roasted maple. The rosewood fingerboard. There's just, again, so much to like about it. And the pickups sound great. You know, when I often find a guitar like this that plays pretty well, generally you'll say, well, you know, the pickups can be replaced, and it's good bone structure for a project guitar. So I was thinking about that when I first got this guitar. And you know what? I like how these pickups sound. I had no problem with them. I think they're articulate, nice rounded sound, good combination of tones. The individual push-pull just makes this a very versatile instrument. So for something that's, you know, just a little over $500, I think you would be hard-pressed to find a guitar with this much value at this price point, and one that plays well and stays in tune. I could safely say, I mean, the word best is certainly a hard thing to say. Am I going to put a ribbon on this thing? But I am very impressed with this guitar at this price point. Anyways, I don't overplay it. I'm going to put a link in the description if you want more information. I know they're figuring out their distribution and how to get these guitars out to people, but if you want any information, you certainly can ask me in the comments. Whatever information I have, I will put that in the description. Check it out for yourself. But hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And while you're down there, well, we are talking about the Wong's brand here. The amp that almost made it into the video, that's the Wong's VT15. That's a JCM 800 circuit budget amplifier. Really cool. You can check that out if you are interested. But remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll. And I'm pretty sure I have a pair of underwear to match this paisley finish, so I'm going to go look for that. But perhaps I'll catch you in the next one.